He pushed past the pain to try to uncover the truth. Why was he in the rainforest when he should have been in the Carpathian Mountains? Why had he been abandoned by his people, his brothers? He shook his head in denial, although it cost him dearly, as the pain increased, spikes seeming to stab through his skull. He shivered as the shadows crept closer, ringing him, taking shapes. Leaves rustled and the bushes shifted, as if touched by unseen hands. Lizards darted out from under the rotting vegetation and raced away as if frightened. Manolito pulled back and once again looked warily around him, this time scanning above and below ground, quartering the region thoroughly. There were shadows only, nothing flesh and blood to indicate an enemy close. He had to get a hold of himself and figure out what was happening before the trap was sprung, and he was certain there was a trap, and he was close to being truly caught. Throughout his time hunting the vampire, Manolito had been wounded and poisoned on many occasions, but still he'd survived because he'd always used his brain. He was cunning and shrewd and very intelligent. No vampire or mage would best him, sick or not. If he was hallucinating, he had to find a way out of the spell to protect himself. Shadows moved in his mind, dark and evil. He looked around him at the growth of the jungle, and instead of seeing a welcoming home, he saw the same shadows moving, reaching, trying to grasp him with greedy claws. Things moved. Banshees wailed. Unfamiliar creatures gathered in the bushes and along the ground. It made no sense, not for one of his kind. The night should have welcomed him, soothed him, and folded him in its rich blanket of peace. The night had always belonged to him, to his kind. Information should have flooded him with each breath he took into his body, but instead his mind played tricks, saw things that couldn't be there. He could hear a dark symphony of voices calling to him, the sounds swelling in volume until his head pounded with moans and pitiful cries. Bony fingers brushed at his skin. Spider legs crawled over him so that he twisted left and right, flailing his arms, slapping at his chest and back, brushing vigorously in an effort to dislodge the invisible webs that seemed to stick to his skin. He shuddered again and forced air through his lungs. He had to be hallucinating, caught in the trap of a master vampire. If that was the case, he couldn't call on his brothers for aid until he knew if he was bait to draw them into the web as well. He gripped his head hard and forced his mind to calm. He would remember. He was an ancient Carpathian, sent out by the former Prince Vlad to hunt the vampire. Vlad's son, Mikhail, had centuries since taken over guiding their people. Manolito felt one of the pieces snap together as a bit of his memory fell into place. He had been far from his home in South America, summoned by the prince to a reunion in the Carpathian Mountains, a celebration of life as Jacques' lifemate gave birth to a child. Yet he now appeared to be in the rainforest, a part familiar to him. Could he be dreaming? He had never dreamed before, not that he remembered. When a Carpathian male went to ground, he shut down his heart and lungs and slept as if dead. How could he dream? Once again he risked a look at his surroundings. His stomach lurched as the brilliant colors dazzled him, hurting his head and making him sick. After centuries of seeing in black and white with shades of gray, now the surrounding jungle held violent color, hues of vivid greens, a riot of colored flowers spilling down tree trunks along with creeper vines. His head pounded and his eyes burned. Drops of blood leaked like tears, falling down his face as he squinted to try to control the sensation of pitching and rolling as he viewed the rainforest. Emotions poured in. He tasted fear, something he hadn't known since he had been a boy. What was going on? Manolito fought to get on top of the strange tumbling of jumbled thoughts in his mind. He pushed hard to clear away the debris and focus on what he knew of his past. He had stepped in front of an elderly human woman possessed by a mage, just as she thrust a poisoned weapon at Jacques and Shay's unborn child. He felt the shock of the entry into his flesh.